What's going on, folks? Okay, so in this video, I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to make your workouts more efficient without sacrificing effectiveness. Let's get right into it. So the first thing is planning. What you want to think about with planning is it's going to allow you to streamline your workout so that way you don't necessarily have to think about it day to day or week to week and spend extra time planning. So you want to have an overall goal that you're aiming for. I know that sounds simple, but sometimes we can miss that. And if you don't necessarily have a big goal that you're aiming for, just think about what you don't want to happen. So the main thing you want to do here is figure out that big goal. Once you have the big goal, then you can go monthly, weekly, and then also daily goals. So that way you can stay motivated by hitting those goals and stay locked in and focused when you're going after those goals on those specific days, weeks, and months. Not only will planning allow you to know where you're going, but it also will guide your exercise selection, how many reps you're gonna be doing, the sets that you're gonna be doing, the frequency of your workouts, and helps you get an overall viewpoint on all that stuff. So it may be a little bit of an investment on the front end, but on the back end, it's gonna be a lot easier from day to day. All right, so the next thing is optimizing your warm-up. So the main thing that I see that happens here is that people tend to do a lot of accessory exercises inside of their warm-up. So you're doing a lot of mobility drills, a lot of activation drills, because the movements that are in your workout may be a little bit too far out of your capabilities. So what I mean by this is just that if you require a lot of mobility work in order to get into a specific movement, such as a back squat, then maybe you might want to do a movement variation of that squat pattern and then work your way into the back squat over time instead of spending so much time up front doing mobility drills trying to get into position. And the same thing goes for activation work. With activation work, you can think about just doing movements, so let's just say that squat pattern, a lot slower with the tempo, and I promise you, your muscles will be firing by the end of that. So that's an easy way to streamline that warm-up because you're doing the actual movement pattern that you're gonna be doing in your workout session instead of doing so many different accessory activation drills and mobility drills. And make sure the movements that you're doing in your warm-up and the patterns that you're doing are as close to the movements that you're gonna be doing in your workout as possible. So the next thing that we're gonna get into is pairing exercises. Pairing exercises is the easiest way to streamline your workout. And what you can think about this is doing movements that complement each other and doesn't necessarily interfere with each other. So for instance, doing a bench press and then a barbell row, or doing a bench press and a deadlift. Now, I know those are compound movements and you may get a lot of fatigue from those, but generally speaking, those movements don't necessarily interfere with each other. You could also use movements that are complementary to each other. So let's just say if you're doing a barbell row and then you're doing a single arm row and then you're doing some band pull aparts. Now, if you're trying to get a hypertrophy effect or muscle endurance effect, that may be more effective. So the key thing here is to make sure you're choosing movements that are complementary to each other and don't interfere with each other, and you're taking appropriate rest periods. The next thing is pretty simple, is keeping track of your rest time. A lot of times we could be sitting around waiting to get back to our exercise and taking extended rest because we might be scrolling on our phones, on social media, email, text messages, changing our music, what have you. So what you wanna do is get a watch, potentially, and time yourself and make sure it goes off during your rest period. Or you can do it on your phone, but I prefer the watch because sometimes you can get caught up in the phone even if the timer goes off. So it's pretty simple, just make sure you keep track of your rest periods so that way you stay on task and you don't rest any longer than you need to. And the next thing is focusing on minimum effective dose. What I mean by this is what is the minimum amount of volume that I can do to get the result that I'm after. So for instance, if I am looking to increase my strength and I've been hearing that 5x5, 5 reps times 5 sets is the best way to go, maybe I want to try and do 3 sets of 5 reps or 4 sets of 5 reps and do that for a month or a couple of months and see if I'm on track with the results that I'm looking for. And if I am, then that is the minimum effective dose for now. Now, the other thing is the exercise selections. Typically, I don't go above 6 exercises per session. And 6 exercises is a good number because you don't necessarily need a lot more than that because you can hit all the movement patterns in your workout with that one. So I call the major movement patterns: squat, bend, push, pull, a core movement, and a single leg or a lunge variation. So you can do all of those within 6 exercises if you're doing a full body training session. And if you're doing an upper body training session or a lower body training session, by the time you get to exercise number 5 and 6, you might be pretty fatigued after that. If the intensity was good enough on those first 4 exercises, you got a good training effect from that. And you don't necessarily need to add on more exercises afterwards. So the main thing here is to try and find the minimum effective dose, so the minimum amount of volume that you can do to see the results that you want, and you can stick with that. And the next thing that we're getting into is fillers. So doing fillers during your rest period. Fillers are a great way to save time because you don't have to do so much activation work in the warm-up or at the end of your workout or mobility drills on either end. What you can do is during your rest periods, let's say you did bench press, you can do a hip flexor stretch while you're resting, or you can do your banded external rotations or what have you during your rest periods. Now, the key here is to make sure you're doing something that doesn't necessarily interfere with the performance of that main exercise. So for instance, like our example with the bench press, if you're doing a pec stretch, that can make the muscle relax, and that's not what we want. We don't want it to be relaxed, we want it to be tensed up and ready to perform. So you wouldn't want to do anything like that. So you just want to be mindful of the movements that you're using for a filler. And the final thing is keeping the cool down brief. You don't need to go above 10 minutes for a cool down. The main focus here is the state. As long as you're in a relaxed state, you're cooled down. So you can do a 10-minute walk, a 10-minute bike, row. It can be light stretching, foam rolling, whatever gets you in a relaxed state, you can do that. So it's pretty simple, 10 minutes of that work or less than 10 minutes of that work and you're good to go. And there you have it. So you can implement any of those strategies or a few of them put together, and that can help your workout be more efficient without sacrificing effectiveness. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.